Welcome to the Mind Spark, bringing you the latest news from around the world. The world awoke to a quiet press release from Taipei, one that would send shockwaves across continents before most had even finished their morning coffee. The city, usually alive with the hum of scooters and the chatter of early risers, felt eerily subdued, as if it too was holding its breath. Taiwan had accepted China's framework for peaceful reunification. The news, delivered in the sterile language of diplomacy, masked the gravity of what had just transpired. For decades, the island had stood as a symbol of resilience and self-determination, but now, with a single statement, the course of its future had been rewritten. The announcement was brief, emotionless, and final, an outcome long feared but never truly expected. There were no grand speeches, no impassioned debates, just a few lines that would alter the fate of millions. In Beijing, state media celebrated the historic return, and President Xi Jinping declared a new era of national unity. The airwaves were filled with triumphant music and patriotic slogans, painting the moment as a long-awaited victory for the Chinese people. In Taipei, shock and disbelief gripped the streets. People stared at their phones, unable to process the loss of sovereignty. Conversations were hushed, eyes wide with confusion and fear. Some wept openly while others simply stood frozen, as if time itself had stopped. The vibrant democracy of Taiwan had seemingly surrendered without a shot. The voting booths, once symbols of hope and participation, now stood empty and irrelevant. Protest signs, hastily discarded, littered the streets, a silent testament to dreams deferred. Financial markets crashed across Asia. The new Taiwan dollar plummeted. Investors scrambled to make sense of the chaos, as uncertainty rippled through global economies. The shockwaves were immediate and the sense of instability was palpable. Global leaders scrambled, caught off guard by the sudden shift. Emergency meetings were convened in capitals from Washington to Tokyo, as diplomats tried to decipher what the new reality would mean for alliances, trade, and the fragile balance of power in the region. The era of strategic ambiguity was over. The future of Taiwan was now in Beijing's hands. Maps were redrawn, and the world's geopolitical landscape shifted in real time. The presidential office stood silent. No speeches, just the cold text of the deal. The halls of power, once bustling with activity, were now shrouded in uncertainty and resignation. The government spoke of pragmatism and a promise of autonomy, but to many, it felt like betrayal. The assurances of self-rule rang hollow in the face of such a sweeping concession. Protesters gathered, their voices rising in anger and disbelief. As the sun rose, anger simmered beneath the surface. Whispers of resistance spread through the city as people struggled to come to terms with the new reality. The sense of loss was overwhelming, but so too was the determination not to be silenced. The quiet would not last. Within hours, the streets began to fill, not with celebration, but with protest. The people of Taiwan, stunned but unbroken, started to gather, their resolve hardening with every passing moment. A storm was brewing in the heart of Taiwan. Dark clouds gathered overhead, mirroring the uncertainty and unrest that now gripped the island. The umbrellas, once used for rain, became symbols of defiance. The world watched, stunned, as history changed in silence. News tickers flashed updates in every language, and social media exploded with speculation and fear. The sense of witnessing a turning point was inescapable. The question was no longer if, but what comes next. Uncertainty hung in the air, as families gathered around kitchen tables, wondering what the future would hold for their children and their homeland. The silence of surrender was about to be shattered. Cries for justice and freedom echoed through the night, as citizens demanded answers and refused to accept the new status quo. The fate of 23 million people had been decided overnight, yet as the city pulsed with life, it was clear that the story was far from over. The collective will of a nation was awakening. The global order was shifting. In boardrooms and parliaments around the world, leaders debated their next moves, aware that the consequences of this moment would ripple far beyond the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan's future, and the world's, hung in the balance. Parents held their children a little tighter, uncertain of what tomorrow might bring, as the eyes of the world remained fixed on the island. The first day of a new era had begun. As dawn broke over Taipei, the city braced itself for whatever would come next, united by a shared sense of uncertainty and a hope that their voices would still be heard. For over 75 years, Taiwan forged its own identity, proud of its democracy and freedoms. The idea of submitting to Beijing was unthinkable until now. The deal was made in secret, with no public debate or vote. Many felt betrayed, their future sold without consent. Pro-sovereignty groups called for mass protests, accusing leaders of treason. Families and friends found themselves divided overnight. The nation's fabric began to tear. What would happen to Taiwan's democracy, its military, its free press? The world watched, breath held, as Taiwan's identity and future hung in the balance. The conflict for the soul of Taiwan had only just begun. To truly understand this moment in history, we must first look back, far back, into the echoes of the past, where decisions and events cast shadows that still shape our world today. The year 1949 stands as a turning point, a year when the fate of millions was rewritten and the map of East Asia was forever changed. After a bitter and devastating civil war, the nationalist forces, led by Chiang Kai-shek, retreated across the sea to Taiwan. They brought with them not only soldiers and officials but also families, hopes, and the belief that they remained the true government of China. For decades, two rival governments, one in Beijing, the other in Taipei, each claimed to be the sole legitimate ruler of all China, creating a tense and often dangerous standoff. The world watched and responded, sometimes shifting alliances, sometimes choosing sides, as countries and organizations debated which government to recognize. The struggle for legitimacy played out on the global stage, affecting diplomacy and international relations for generations. Isolated diplomatically, Taiwan's people faced uncertainty, but over time, they built a vibrant society. They forged a new sense of identity, one rooted in their own experiences, struggles, and dreams for the future. The old dream of returning to the mainland slowly faded. Instead, a new generation began to see themselves as distinctly Taiwanese, with their own culture, values, and aspirations, separate from those across the strait. The split of 1949 was not just a political divide, it became a deep divergence in values, governance, and daily life, shaping the destinies of two very different societies. In Taiwan, democracy took root, with open debates and free elections. On the mainland, the Communist Party established an authoritarian system controlling politics and society with a firm hand. The shadow of civil war lingered, shaping not only governments but also families, communities, and the very fabric of daily life. Two societies separated by water and history grew further apart with each passing decade. For many, the past was never truly past. Memories of loss, migration, and longing continued to influence decisions, policies, and personal identities, echoing through generations. Now, as history comes full circle, the legacy of that long-ago conflict still shapes the hopes, fears, and choices of people on both sides of the strait. While China remained under strict authoritarian rule, Taiwan quietly began a remarkable journey toward democracy. In the shadow of a powerful neighbor, the island's people faced decades of uncertainty and control, but a spirit of resilience was growing beneath the surface. For nearly 40 years, martial law and political repression shaped daily life. Yet, beneath the weight of censorship and fear, a powerful movement for change was taking root. Brave citizens risked everything to demand basic freedoms, gathering in secret, organizing protests, and spreading hope for a better future. In 1987, the government finally lifted martial law, marking a turning point in Taiwan's history. The end of repression unleashed a wave of political and social transformation as people poured into the streets to celebrate newfound freedoms and the promise of a more open society. Opposition parties quickly formed, challenging the old order. The press flourished, with newspapers and magazines reporting freely for the first time in decades. Civil society blossomed as citizens organized groups to advocate for rights, justice, and transparency. In 1996, Taiwan reached a historic milestone by holding its first direct presidential election. For the first time, millions of citizens could choose their leader, a groundbreaking moment for democracy in the Chinese-speaking world. Beijing tried to intimidate voters with military exercises and threats, but the people of Taiwan stood firm. They lined up at polling stations, determined to make their voices heard and to choose freedom over fear. Over the years, Taiwan has become a beacon of progressive values in Asia. It was the first in the region to legalize same-sex marriage, and it continues to protect human rights, championing equality and dignity for all its citizens. Taiwan's vibrant democracy stands in stark contrast to China's one-party model. The island's lively rallies, open debates, and free press highlight the differences between two very different visions for society. Defending democracy has become central to Taiwan's identity. Young and old alike gather to support freedom, holding vigils and rallies to remind the world of what's at stake. For the people of Taiwan, democracy is about more than sovereignty. It's about protecting a cherished way of life where families can gather, speak freely, and pursue their dreams without fear. Time and again, the people of Taiwan have chosen freedom over fear, unity over division, and hope over despair. That courageous choice has defined a generation, inspiring the world and shaping Taiwan's future as a proud, democratic nation. As Taiwan built democracy, China built power. Reunification was Beijing's unwavering goal. Offered under one country, two systems, Taiwan could keep its freedoms, on paper. But after watching Hong Kong's autonomy erode, most Taiwanese rejected the offer. Beijing responded with pressure, economic leverage, diplomatic isolation, and military intimidation. The message was clear: accept peacefully or face force. The offer was an ultimatum. Taiwan's resistance only hardened Beijing's resolve. The dragon's embrace was tightening. Why did Taiwan yield after decades of defiance? China's military threat became overwhelming. Invasion was now a real possibility. Economic warfare crippled key industries, pressuring business leaders to push for compromise. International support wavered, America was distracted, allies hesitated. Taiwan felt alone, its circle of friends shrinking. The constant threat of war and economic pain wore down the national will. Disinformation campaigns fueled fatalism and division. Leaders faced a stark choice: survival with compromise or destruction. In desperation, they chose survival. The decision was made under unbearable pressure. The cost of resistance had become too high. The announcement unleashed chaos. Tens of thousands protested, demanding the deal be rescinded. Clashes with police erupted. Images of violence shocked the world. The stock market crashed, foreign investors fled, and the new Taiwan dollar collapsed. Global tech supply chains were thrown into turmoil. PLA liaison teams arrived to begin integrating Taiwan's military. Soldiers faced humiliation and uncertainty. Some threatened resistance. Society fractured. Neighbors and families turned against each other. Pro-unification groups clashed with pro-sovereignty protesters. Fear and suspicion spread. Self-censorship took hold. Decades of freedom unraveled in days. Taiwan's future was more uncertain than ever. The world reacted with shock and anxiety. The US expressed concern but stopped short of condemnation. American credibility in Asia was shaken. The first island chain breached without a fight. Japan and South Korea reassessed their defenses, fearing China's new reach. Southeast Asia saw Taiwan's fate as a warning. Europe mourned the loss of a democracy but prioritized economic stability. Russia and China's allies celebrated the shift in power. The global balance had changed overnight. The world now faced unsettling questions. Would peace hold? Would Taiwan resist? What would happen to the global economy? June 22, 2025, marked the start of a new, uncertain era.